Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Ascension Teachings. I'm your host Peter Maxwell Slattery and we'll be going more in depth today with some exercises. So what I want to start off with is, what are you putting into your body? Think about your diet. Now, I'm not telling you what to eat. I've been a vegan for 5 years, give or take now, and I feel a lot better for it, but that's what I needed to do for me, and I felt that it was the right thing. I always wanted to do it, but I got off my butt and done it, and I feel great. And so what I'm getting at here is, what are you lacking in your diet? Are you lacking certain vegetables and fruit? Could you be incorporating it more? What sort of fruits and vegetables do you enjoy? So look into what you could be bringing into your diet more to balance you a bit out, because we need to have a balance of mind, body and spirit here. So, with the mind, we've got to look at things that stress us out and try to de-stress from that. And that's through spiritual practices that really helps with that as well, loving detachment. But with food, something that I do have every day is something called Vital Greens, which has got everything in it. You could basically almost live off a teaspoon of that a day, in my opinion. Not that I recommend it, but I only eat once a day as well. I don't eat after dark. And so there's stuff I've seen at Walmart when I've been in America called, I think it's called Super Green, something like that. That's a green powder. I think it's got around 50 essential things that the body needs. But what I'm saying is, a teaspoon of that a day, if you're lacking in anything, can make sure that you're getting that which you're lacking in. So I'll put Vital Greens, just a teaspoon of it, with a banana, some blueberries, plant-based protein, and that's pretty much two of my main meals a day. I don't really eat at all. Like I said, usually eat once a day. So what type of water are you having, and how much are you having water as well? Think about that. A lot of people are very much lacking in water intake. Another thing I want to go into is exercise. How much are you exercising? Are you exercising at all? Maybe try to start and walk 20 minutes 3 times a week if you're not doing it. Just a little bit. Find something that you enjoy. Whether it's yoga, qigong, tai chi, karate, something that gets the body moving and gets the mind and the body and the spirit. You'll find that those 3 components come together when you are exercising. There's something that happens. And you can even go on autopilot, and communication and deep concepts and ideas can come through when doing so. And what spiritual practices are you doing? Now, I'm not saying you've got to be like Gandhi and sit on top of a mountain for 4 hours a day. But what I recommend is even what I call the Take 5 scenario, which I've mentioned before. It's just taking 5 minutes out of your day, sitting down, reflecting, and thoughts and ideas and a rejuvenation of energies can happen as well. So even other spiritual practices, whatever you get into, are you doing it enough? Are you doing it at all? Does it help you? Do you enjoy doing it? If not, find something that you enjoy, because the things that I'm mentioning, you want it to be so it's not a chore. You want it to be things that you enjoy. So what we'll go into now is a method I call connecting to your guides. So how this works is through 3 senses really. Though we can use the 5 sense reality sometimes, or a lot of the time with contact, the more advanced we get, we're only going to be really using one of those components of the 5 sense reality with this, which is touch, sensation. And so if you ever get goosebumps, or some people call it chicken skin or whatever, or if you're ever in a room and you feel like you're not alone, what's happening is that your aura is interacting with the aura of something else, even if you're not able to perceive it. And so the physical sensations I was just talking about are a byproduct of 2 auras overlapping each other, so to speak. The next thing to this method is taking notice of your thoughts, concepts, ideas, downloads, knowledge bombs. This is the universal language in which all beings communicate throughout all planes and dimensions, is thought, if they're evolved enough to recognize it. Especially the higher density beings, this is how they're always operating. So an analogy for this I think I used in earlier episodes is, in the beginning, in later years, when I walked outside and there would be a craft above the home, an extraterrestrial vehicle, or a being in its Merkaba, I just knew they were out there. What these beings were doing was they were sending a thought transfer to my consciousness, and I perceived it as my own thoughts. So a lot of you, what's being perceived as your own thoughts is actually communication coming through from who? Well, that's what this method's for, to work out who. The next thing is your mind's eye. It is a vehicle to interact and see and get imagery from these multidimensional beings and to tap into other realms. So you might get colors, geometry, you might actually see beings, symbols, things of this nature. And a lot of symbols can have multidimensional communication in them as well. The next thing is using your imagination. Using your imagination, as I said before, we can create things from. So in the other realms, imagination is creation. So if you need to during this exercise, use your imagination. You can create a meeting place. You can be shown things that may not be clear as your mind's eye, although I do believe they're one and the same thing, but using your imagination can activate it. One thing I talked to a scientist about one day, and by no means am I a health professional, even with the food stuff that we mentioned, but this scientist said to me that from what he knows, he believes that melatonin can actually decalcify the pineal gland. So if people aren't seeing much things at all, what I could recommend is maybe for 2 or 3 weeks, 3 times a week, very minimal dosages, about 3 milligrams of melatonin. Doing that for 2 or 3 weeks and then have a break for a few months may start to clean it up, and you may actually start to see colors or get very vague imagery and colors and things coming through. Now, working with some of the top psychics and remote viewers on the planet, which I have now for a few years, one thing we all agree upon is it's the first thing that comes to mind when we're getting information. If there's too much of a break, you can make things up. So you want this to try and flow, almost like when you're in a car traveling or on a train for hours on end and you're having a conversation with yourself. And a lot of the time I believe we're not having a conversation with ourselves. I believe it's other beings coming through. But most importantly with what we're about to do is you always do a clearing first. So that's what we're going to start with. So what I want you to do is sit down, get relaxed or lay down, and I want you to get your hands and put them on your lap with the palms facing up. So now close your eyes. And what I want you to do now is start breathing in through the nose. And when doing so, I want you to imagine whatever beautiful coloured light works for you that feels rejuvenating and clear. So breathe that in, and when you breathe out, I just want you to breathe out any fears, worries, frustrations, anything on the mind. Breathe that out and let it dissolve out of the body. And again, breathing that loving, joyful, blissful energy in through the nose. And again, when you breathe out, just breathe out any wrong conclusions, self-judgment, judgment of others, anything on the mind, let it go. And again, breathe in that loving, beautiful energy. And one more time, breathe out anything not in line with your highest good. Just let it dissolve and go out through the breath. And what I want you to do now is I want you to keep breathing in that positive energy, and I want you to breathe that positive energy back out now. So in other words, recycle that beautiful loving energy in and out through the breath. And keep doing that, and I'll do a clearing now for us. So I'm just going to ask that our guides and our higher self step forth. We ask that any cords, attachments, implants, parasitic thought forms, anything in our fields or environments that isn't in line with the awakening healing process, we ask that it be dissolved or escorted to its perfect place and to go in peace. Thank you. And now we're going to ask for the healing energies to step forth for any healing that's needed on a physical level or non-physical level. And we also ask for a blessing from Gaia, Mother Earth, the original spirits of the land, and the nature spirits and elementals that are in line with the awakening healing process. And lastly, we ask that we're sealed off in our own dome of protection, immune from any outside influences, and that our main teacher and guide step forth to communicate that which is most beneficial to us at this time, to help us on our mission and to be happy here also. Thank you. Now stay in that state. And what you're going to start to notice is an energetic sensation on the palms of one of your hands, or maybe even both. And for some people, you may feel it somewhere else in the body, so it may feel like a slight tingling sensation or a heat or a vibration. Very subtle it can be for some people. So just observe and see where you're feeling a sensation on the body. And now what I want you to do is focus on that sensation, and through intention I want you to connect to it, and through thought I want you to ask it if it can give you a description or a visual of what it looks like. So for some, through thought, concepts and ideas may come through. So you may think blue, it could be a blue being. What comes to mind when I ask you, what does this being or energy look like? The next thing I want you to do now is I want you to keep focusing on that energy, and I want you to ask it, has it got a name or a reference for who or what it is? So it may give you an earth type name, it may give you some symbols or letters, or even an image as a reference to what it is, or to call it. So what comes to mind when I ask you, what's a name or a reference for this being or energy? The next thing I want you to do now is I want you to ask this being or energy, where is it from? So, and I may be leading on a bit here because the first time I need to wean you through this. So is it from Earth, inner Earth, a star system? If so, which star system? Or is it from another realm? So what comes to mind when I ask you, where is this energy or being from? And now I want you to ask this energy, how is it connected to you? Is it another aspect of you? Is it an old friend or family or part of the soul group that you're connected to? And now what I want you to ask is, what messages has this being got for you? Because there's a reason that this energy or being has come through to communicate. So it may say things like self-love, security, protection. These are, yes, I'm leading on, but these are examples. So what comes to mind when I ask you, what messages are there for you from this energy or being? And what I want you to do now is, any questions, mysteries that you've got, any insight, anything you want to know at all, what I want you to do now is project those thoughts to this energy or being and see what comes back through thought. So how did you go with that? I've seen amazing results over the years. For some people, they get nothing at all to start off with, or maybe one or two things they can sense the energies, and then a month later they've come back to me and they've gone, Pete, I'm getting amazing results. And some people end up way better than myself, and I've been doing this for quite some time and came up with this protocol a while ago as well. And it's sort of how a lot of remote viewers and psychics work. Once they're developed, they sort of work this way as well. So what you may have noticed, generally the energies can come through on the hand, and that's sort of like a way that I assist people to start to feel the energies, because we're very sensitive on the hands. But what you may have noticed is that it came through on another part of the body, or shifted from the hands to somewhere else in the body. Now it's very important, the issue of sensing these energies, and why. Once you're acquainted with this technique well enough, you could be sitting in a kitchen or outside or anywhere, and you could feel an energy come through. And if you're already acquainted with that energy, you'll know who it is instantaneously, because every time the same being comes through, it's going to react with your body in the same way. So usually it will shift from the hands to somewhere else, whether it feels like a static hand on your shoulder, or your crown opening up, or the back of the neck, or the heart space, or your whole body getting rushes, or a temperature change in the room happens. That's going to happen the same time every time if the same being comes through. So that's why that's important. You can skip half of this straight away and go to a mind-to-mind dialogue with whatever's coming through, that's your spirit guide or extraterrestrial friend, or even another facet of you. Also, you may even experience source when doing this technique. And another thing you can use it for is if you saw a UFO. A lot of the times when UFOs are seen or ET vehicles, there's an energy sensation that comes through with it. And when you tap into that energy, you could do the same method. What do they look like? Where are they from? What's their name? What messages have they got? Is this sighting connected to you specifically? Have they got a message? Have you just had contact? Because sometimes they can even pick you up, consciously take you on board and put you back basically the same time that they took you. And there's like no missing time with that, but there can be a lot of information bleed through. Although there is missing time, and then sometimes there's what's called extra time where you're put back before you're taken. So going through this technique, you tap into your multidimensional senses and abilities. And the more that you exercise them, the more advanced you become. So you could use this technique 3 times a week for 5 minutes, or you could do it once a day, 5 times a week for 5 minutes. You could do it every day. But what I'm saying is, if you keep it as a regular practice, over a month's period, you're going to see that those senses will start to enhance. So some people might be good at just feeling or hearing, and that's good. Use those abilities. But the ones that you're lacking in, I promise you, eventually they'll start to be exercised and you'll start to have breakthroughs with the other abilities that you may be lacking in as well. Also, physical phenomena can happen when doing this. So you might even have your eyes shut and you can see a flashing light, and open up your eyes, there might be an orb there or a bang flashing in and out. You can have physical interactions. There's many different types of phenomena that can happen when doing this as well. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Ascension Teachings and that these tips and tools have been beneficial for you. And keep an eye out for the next episode of Ascension Teachings. I'm your host, Peter Maxwell Slattery, and thank you for watching.